An insurrection is defined as a violent uprising against an authority or government. Currently, the United States is facing an insurrection. Hi, my name is Aaron, this is my show Re-Education, and today we're going to be talking about the American Insurrection. Let's get into it. Over the past 4 days, it looks like the United States has suffered an incredibly hard blow, one that it may not ever be able to shake off or recover from. Cities across the entire United States are erupting in uprisings and riots. They are turning into autonomous zones and becoming ungovernable. I always knew that a day like this would come, but I never expected in my wildest dreams that it would happen so soon. And that's a common thread throughout all of history. And even though I do realize that this isn't the revolution itself, this is definitely something. It's definitely a start. And one thing that's true throughout all of history is that every time a revolution happened, it always happened at a time when nobody was expecting it. It always happened out of nowhere, it would have seemed. Even though right now, it wouldn't really be out of nowhere, considering we're suffering through some of the most catastrophic events in world history. Global catastrophic climate change, the complete and utter dismantling and destruction of the entire global financial market, the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown that ensued afterwards, and now this. Riots happening, not just across one state, not just across every state, but across the world. I'm having a hard time expressing exactly how I feel about this right now. I have a lot of mixed emotions. I'm jumping from one extreme to the other from minute to minute, and it's really something else. I don't know how to express to everybody exactly what it feels like to live in a time where you know that this is all going to go into the history books. We all know that this is going to be one of the defining moments of our life. And it doesn't really matter at this point whether you're for the protests or against the protests. Right now, every single person is forced to take a second and think about the entire situation that they are in. Every single person is forced to look at that precinct that was taken down yesterday and think to themselves, oh my God, the state doesn't have control. They don't have any power anymore. They have completely lost their ability to govern. Almost every single major city across the entire country has become ungovernable. And I'm going to go through a list right now. All right, so let's go through the list. Obviously, first of all, we have Minneapolis, where basically this entire torrent started. That was being broadcast on a live feed by Unicorn Riot. Unicorn Riot was doing an absolutely fantastic job. Next on the list was Indianapolis, where I actually was able to catch a live stream when I was looking at the map, basically the map of the United States that was showing where all of the different live streams were. It was insane. There were hotspots all across the entire country where people were just gathering en masse, completely autonomously, completely on their own, and Indianapolis was actually one of the more interesting live streams. They were going ape, as the kids say, in the streets. I've seen people hanging off light posts, a lot of people gathering, very interesting. We also have Las Vegas, Knoxville, Charlotte, Phoenix, Seattle, St. Paul, Houston, Philadelphia, Portland, Maine, Detroit, Waterloo, Omaha, Memphis, Dallas, Ann Arbor, Portland, Oregon, San Jose, Atlanta. I believe it was Atlanta where the protesters were attacking a CNN building. A lot of people were wondering why they were specifically attacking the CNN building. And it might not only have been because they just really hate CNN, it also may have had something to do with the fact that there was another police precinct inside that CNN building, and I believe, or at least a lot of people are speculating, that the protesters were trying to make their way over to there. We also have Fort Wayne, D.C. at the White House. That was another live stream that I was watching as well. There was a Breitbart reporter that was doing the live stream there, and they ended up getting chased away by a bunch of the protesters for presumably filming their faces. Now, as I was watching the live stream, I thought that it was a little bit weird because the reporter didn't look really like he was filming anybody's faces, but a bunch of protesters assumed that he was and chased him out of the area. Now, I don't know exactly the details on that, whether or not that Breitbart reporter was doing a bunch of bullshit before I started watching the live stream, or if he was legitimately chased out. Either way, it doesn't really matter. Obviously, people were upset, people were angry, and they were trying to do whatever they could to basically let out that aggression. There are a lot of videos from DC. It was actually really quite interesting to watch a lot of these things. At one point, I seen protesters ripping down barricades, getting into tug-of-war matches with the police, getting right up in their faces, and the police really couldn't do much at all about any of it. They were rendered helpless, completely and utterly helpless, because they finally seen the collective mass of people. And the honest truth is that when we all get together, when we are all together as one, we win. Now, there are also protests in Denver, Kansas City, LA, Boston, Chicago, Milwaukee, Cincinnati, Louisville, and New York City, where I seen a bunch of police vans set on fire and the people were losing it. A bunch of individuals, I believe at one point, marched onto Trump Tower. They tried to storm the base of Trump Tower. I'm not exactly sure how successful they were at that because the camera footage was from very far away, but that was really interesting. In a bunch of other places, I believe in Chicago, they ended up storming one of the Capitol buildings. They, I believe, got access to the Capitol building at one point. There were protests happening all across the entire country, so many that I was literally unable to keep up with everything that was happening. Things were happening at such a rapid pace that even though I had another person with me that was working with me to try to find all of these different stories, we were unable to actually find out every single thing that happened, and there was no way that we could keep track of all of it. It was just happening at such a fast rate that it was just impossible. There were undercover police officers that were showing up in many different areas that were trying to get into a lot of the crowds and start violence and start fights. They were also out there trying to get intel and information. A small tip for anybody that's going out there to do any demonstrations is that this is why you make sure that you have a very strong affinity group. An affinity group is the group of people that you go to the protest with, or the people that you are activists or active with. Usually it's a group of 3 to 5 people, and you know each other very well, so you don't have this happen. The police are completely incapable of infiltrating your group if you know who every member of your group is. So if you show up and you have some rando, specifically somebody wearing baggy clothes where it's easy for them to hide a bulletproof vest, or very stiff boots, if you see someone like that trying to get in with your group, probably take it with a grain of salt that they're likely not there for the best of intentions. Other factors that you can take into consideration is they're usually quite large and they don't have facial hair. So pay attention to those things. Definitely make sure that you're looking out for any undercover officers or agents that are trying to find intel on you or trying to get pictures of anybody's faces. Again, I don't condemn nor condone any of the protests that are happening. I am simply just looking out for people's safety, and I don't want anybody to get hurt. Now, this is, as I said, an historic event. I want to take us back a little bit to a video that I made a couple of weeks ago. It might have been a month or so by now, where I was talking about Sun Tzu's The Art of War. And one of the main things that I brought up, one of the main themes, was the idea that if you attack your enemy everywhere, they will everywhere be weak. The quote goes something like this: if you attack an enemy's front, they will send reinforcements to their front. If you attack an enemy's rear, they'll send reinforcements to their rear. If you attack their right, they'll send reinforcements to their right. And if you attack their left, they'll send reinforcements to their left. But if you attack them everywhere, then they'll have to send reinforcements everywhere, and everywhere they will be weak. And that's what we've seen over the last few days. The United States is currently being attacked everywhere. So everywhere they are weak. They are completely incapable of handling this sort of pressure. And I believe it was Bo from the Fifth Column who even stated that even if we were to bring back every single on-duty military officer from overseas and everywhere and bring them to the United States so they could institute some sort of martial law, there aren't enough police. There aren't enough officers in uniform working for the United States in the entire world that could actually institute and properly implement martial law. Like I said, if you attack them everywhere, they will everywhere be weak. Now, like I was saying on Twitter, I don't think that this is the revolution. I definitely do think that this is one of many uprisings that are going to happen over the next few years. This is going to continue to escalate. More of these kinds of events are going to happen. They're going to happen more frequently, and we are going to have to get used to this being the new normal. This is what happens when a system is going through its death throes. Capitalism is in end-stage capitalism, and it's not going to survive much longer. This insurrection is not just going to happen today, and it's not just going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be a long process. And during that process is when we have to start teaching. They need to know how to self-govern. They need to know how to do this without leadership from one small little area 100 miles away. We need to be able to get back to being humans again. We need to actually get out there and educate, agitate, and organize. So please, if you have any information about socialism, anarchism, Marxism, any of those leftisms, grab that blowhorn. Get on there. Start teaching people something, because we need to self-govern. We need it now more than ever, because we can't rely on the state for anything. At least that's the way I look at it. If you do get a chance, please check out all of the links in the description box below. Hit that little bell button, because they're not going to tell you when I release a video. They're unsubscribing people every day, so also subscribe as well. And thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.